and we have one person on. That's cool.
Yay.
This time we had no one waiting, so we don't want to keep people waiting. All right, well, welcome to Baker's Green Acres live stream question and answer. There's Ducks and Clucks. They're very faithful to show up. Scott Burton. And it's Wednesday evening. Here we had cold, windy, wet today, and it hasn't been real fun working outside. Yesterday we had beautiful sun, and I got a couple projects that I was working on outside, and really wore myself right out. So spring is here. We're definitely gonna have to take advantage of this time of the year and continue to do this as long as it's still fun and people want to do it. But I was told that the numbers last week were greater than the numbers week before, so I guess we'll stay with that. And I'm here with my lovely secretary, and we are ready to rock and roll. I just did a quick update on the Baker's Green Acres Anyone Can Farm tribe. So if you haven't seen that, you can definitely check that out. That's a private group, and the purpose of that is some of the stuff we do on our farm is not appropriate for Facebook's community guidelines. So they they cut stuff off if we do certain things. So in the private group, you're asking to join, and so you say that you want to see that material. And basically, what it comes down to, we don't do anything more radical than butchering a pig or a cow. That's as radical as it gets. There's no human sacrifice or anything like that. No, none of that. So that group is growing, and if you have people in your circle that you would like to share that with, go ahead and do that. And also tonight, you can share that as well. I don't have a whole agenda here tonight. I don't have a lot of things that I want to talk about yet. I may. I'm fortunate that I get to look out this window and I can see some of the things that I did today, and it's good to see things changing a little bit. We see a lot of changes in the summertime, but this time of the year not so much, or during the winter not so much. What I am working on that I did just a little short tutorial on with the whiteboard is our grow area, and our grow area is a 300 by 100, and it's divided in thirds, and we grow on the two sections that we do not have pigs on, and then when we move the pigs over to the section that has produce on it, we'll plant the section that the pigs just came off. And this is working out really well because it produces a lot of produce, and if you are in the produce business, securing the land and growing the stuff is a challenge, all right? But then finding a market for that is a third challenge. And then there's the fourth challenge and the fifth challenge and the sixth challenge. But in this case, what I do is I have a market right here, and they walk around on four legs, and they like to dig in the dirt. So they not only are my market for the produce that I grow in those fields, they actually do the harvest for me, which is really nice. It's really nice. So I basically turn the water on once in a while. I cultivate the soil up a little bit, and I put a little bit of seed in. They're handling the fertilizer, they're handling the harvest, and they're handling the produce. They eat everything. So it's a really good grow system, and I want to keep thinking about it because there was actually something that I thought of today that I could add to it that would make it even more convenient for me. and that was what we call a loader, and that's to where from any 3 fields I can get the pigs to go into a small corral that I can make even smaller, so that if I have a trailer backed up against it, that I can run them up into the trailer. All right. So I've yacked long enough, and we have enough people in the group. Please, if you're going to ask questions, would you please ask questions in caps, so we know it's a question. And also, the tribe, I think, is going to be a good place where we can interact. You know, the tribe is sort of like you're in my shirt pocket when I go out and do something, and I'm able to just off the cuff, hey, this is what I'm doing. We don't edit it a whole lot. Matter of fact, it's live, so it's not edited at all. So you may get an eyeful. Who knows? But it's not for the general public. It's just for this small group of homesteaders, and I think that it's going to be productive because we can go right to you and we can ask questions of you to find out where we need to go with this thing. We do have some ideas, and we're working on some projects, and we'll share them when we get around to it. Okay, let's go. Do we have a question, Mom?
Scott wants to know what's the best trellis system for veggie gardens.
It depends. Okay, no, I got an answer for that. You want a trellis. What a trellis is it's some sort of structure that vine crops can grow up. For those of you that don't know what trellises are.
He wants to
You're gonna
trellis.
cukes, okay? Okay. You want a trellis that is dual purpose. So when you're done trellising, you want that piece of equipment to be able to use it for something else. So what we use a lot of around here are hog panels. And a hog panel is a piece of thick gauge. It's about a little better than 3/8 of an inch bar stock. And then they put it together in a like a fencing system, and it's welded together. And these sections of panel are 16 feet long. And then usually you put them in with steel posts. You drive steel posts, and then you put them there, and you can wire them in real quick. Well, the steel posts will work really good for trellising as well. So what we do is we'll drive posts in, and then we'll put the trellis way off the ground, like maybe 2 feet off the ground. And then once the vegetables catch up to it, then they'll grab onto it and they'll grow up to the top. We do it for green beans. What else do we? That's about it. That's all we do it for.
If I grew a lot of peas, I'd trellis peas.
Yeah.
You could trellis squash. Squash love to climb.
Squash love to climb. And cukes love to climb. So that's what I would go with. And then, when you're done trellising, you can use those hog panels for, let's say, at the end of the season, you could set them up around a section of your garden, and you could turn your pigs in there, and they would turn that all over for you, and they would eat anything that you didn't want to eat out of there. It's the nice thing about having pigs is they're a good market for your produce, whatever you produce. So let's say you're going to produce tomatoes to take to farmer's market. Oh, I don't recommend that, but if let's say that's what you want to do, and you have some tomatoes that have a split in them, and you have enough tomatoes in the house, well, your pigs will take them, and they'll turn that into something that you can use later. So there's sort of like an accumulation point. So here we are. Well, you didn't ask that, but I would say hog panels and steel posts, and then we use just electric wire, cut it in sections and you just wire it on there. I use electric wire for a lot of things. The thicker of the electric wire stock, there's the .17 and then the 3.2, I think. I'm not sure about that, but it's the bigger one. It's more flexible and you can use it for other things, so I use a lot of that. So that's what I would do, Scott. And you know what else I've done is I've taken hog panels and bent them at 90 degrees, and then they'll sit on the ground. So they will hold themselves up. And if you do 2 of them like that, well, then you have a box that's 8 by 8, and that would make a heck of a good trellis right there, and you wouldn't even need any posts to hold it up. And it would also make a good place to keep your baby pigs.
In the off season.
In the off season, yeah. Or
Cats.
if you have young children, yep,
Play pens,
yep,
right? Sheep, you name it.
sheeps.
Susan wants to know if you have some kind of plans or tips on building a chicken tractor for meat birds. She has 60 birds she's planning to put out in about 2 weeks.
2 weeks, huh? Well, I do have plans. I guess the best, probably what you need to do at this point is go to the Baker's Green Acres YouTube and look at pastured poultry, the things that we've done. And if you can see enough of the way I've built those chicken tractors, if that's good enough, you know, just looking at it, if you can duplicate that, then good. If not, I may have to get in gear here with building my Generation 3 chicken tractor, and we want to make a conclusive video of that whole process of how to build it. I mean, the materials, how to bend the conduit, how to drive the screws, what screws to use, what wood to use, everything, just the way we do it, how to order the tarp for it, or how to scrounge a tarp for it. And I think that's the route that we're gonna go. Because when I make a video out there, it's sort of like, this is the concept of it. And people say, yeah, I really like that concept, but I don't really know how to bend conduit. And you know, to some of us, stuff like that comes second nature. But I sometimes, when somebody says to me, oh, just get a, I can't even think of what they're going to tell me, but
Dropbox?
something to do with, huh?
Dropbox.
Yes, like I put it in Dropbox. That one's famous. Oh, I'll send you something. I'll send it in Dropbox. You know, that doesn't mean anything to me. Or they'll say, you know, a Google something or other spreadsheet, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means. So I can sympathize with when I say something to you. Oh, get this capillary line, or get this conduit, and just bend it at a 90-degree angle or something like that. It has to be a better explanation for people that are just starting this. If you're doing your first 60 birds and you don't have a chicken tractor, then you never built a chicken tractor before. And when I built my first chicken tractor, I really didn't know what I was doing. I just kind of saw, I read Joel Salatin's book, and I thought, I could do that. And I built my first one, believe it or not, out of conduit. No, out of reinforcing rod, concrete reinforcing rod. I got a whole bunch of concrete re-rod. You know, that stuff's really heavy, and I have an arc welder, so I cut the pieces and welded them together and put chicken wire on it, and then got some material to make a peaked roof, and everything was great until, you know, the welds started to break, which they did. It was a bad system. And then I built some out of wood, some pretty thick wood that I had, and they were too heavy to really move every day. The kids couldn't move them. And then we went to the Generation 3, which is what we're using now, and I make those out of 1x4 pressure treated lumber. And I have kind of a design that we came up with, building several of them. And we wound up building about 30 of them, or 35. And now I only have two because we're homesteaders now, so I'm not commercially raising pastured poultry. So let's do this. You're reaching out to me for help. If the videos are not enough, PM me and I'll take pictures of them and I'll send them to you. And then next week you can come back and you can ask me what you need to know on this mode, and possibly I could have the whiteboard in here. I'll show you what I know, but it's not hard to do. You're going to need 1 5/8 drywall screws. You're going to need the lumber, and you need quite a bit of it. And then you have to decide on the dimensions that you want to go. If you're doing 75 birds, we've found that the chicken tractor dimensions that you want are 10 by 12, gives you 120 square feet, and the birds are about comfortable at that number. If you have too many birds in there,
You're doing good.
they're crowded and they do things like peck each other. If you have too few in there, it seems like they don't go out to the perimeter of the chicken tractor. They just stay close in to the feeder. So if you're doing 60, and it depends on how strong you are. If you can move something like that, you have to have a way that when you pick the front of it up, there's got to be something there to pick it up. We use a rope, and then we put a skid on the back. But I've seen Mike Finneran, he's got a great design, and it's in the it's in the tribe. So go to Baker's Green Acres.
Anyone can.
Anyone can farm tribe and sign up to be a member. We'll let you in, and then you can look at Mike's. He did a good job of building them. He put wheels on the back of them. We've done that before, but when you have 30 of them, we found skids was a better way to go. And we have pretty flat fields to work on. If you don't have flat fields, then wheels might be a good way to go. But this is something you're going to have to kind of, or we can do a consult, a phone consult. That's an available service that we actually peddle on our website.
She did say she's planning to make a 10 by 12
10 by 12.
tractor, and she wondered why you want the pitch on the roof. Why you like that?
Well, I do the pitch on the roof because we get a lot of rain here in the summer, and I went with a tarp instead of a solid material. And I went with the tarp because I like the light coming through. I don't like it to be dark in there. And we found that you don't need sides on these chicken tractors at all. Not where we are. We don't.
She's in a close latitude.
Are you near
Not
us,
too far.
Susan?
Yeah.
Susan's near us? All right. We don't put anything on the sides. But in the homesteading model, there's no reason for you to be putting chickens out now. When we were doing it commercially, we would already have 5 chicken tractors out there full right now with birds out on the field. And then these cold, rainy nights, we're sweating it, So in that case, we would need sides on our chicken tractors. And what we would wind up doing is taking straw bales out there and putting them up against the sides so the birds could get a little bit of windbreak. A day like today is, it's just windy. In the summertime, though, if you have sides, the birds are not smart enough to not congregate, and they, without the airflow across them, they overheat, and you can kill them off pretty good. So I wouldn't do sides on them at all. I do tarps because, and I need a peak so that when the rain hits it, they don't bow in, they don't load up with. Generation 3 or Generation 4 that I'm going to be building is going to be even different than that. I'm not going to use as much wood. I'm going to use a lot of conduit. I've been using a lot of conduit the last few years. It's cheap, it's easy to drill, it's easy to bend, and it's pretty stout if you build kind of a lattice with it. You know, you build a network with it, and you make it structurally strong, and it has a lot of give to it too. So with your chicken tractors, you need them so they'll flex a little bit because you got to move them, and you need them to hold up over the years. The ones that I have now were built 8 years ago at least. They're the newest ones, and a lot of them have gone down the road. We gave quite a few of them away, and then just destroyed quite a few of them. So
Scott wanted to know what the best forage crops for Mangalitsa are.
well, Scott, I couldn't really say the best for Mangalitsa. You know, there's not just one, because I can't grow daikon radishes right now. They won't even germinate. So that wouldn't be a good choice. And I want something growing out there as soon as possible. But field peas will. But in the summertime, field peas don't germinate real good when the soil is really warm. Excuse me. They need cooler soil. But then let's say at the end of the season, when it's cool, I'm not going to put a field pea in because we're running up against winter. I would want something that I could put in that is going to continue to grow even though we might have a frost on it. So then I would use rye. Here's what I use in total. I use daikon radishes, sometimes they call them fodder radishes, and they're a long white radish. They're like that long, right? And about this much will stick up out of the ground, and they're slightly blue, right? But the majority of it goes deep. I use those. They have a nice top on them. Almost looks like a tobacco leaf but it's a big top. Real heavy. I use field peas. I use purple top turnips. They've worked really well. Pumpkins work really well too. The thing about pumpkins though, once you tie that field up with pumpkins, it's tied up until harvest time. And pumpkins grow until the vines start to constrict. So for us, that can be September. But the amount of forage that you get out of pumpkins is unbelievable. But you may have to send the kids out there with baseball bats or swords to break them up. That's the downside of pumpkins. What else have we used? Rye.
Leftover garden seeds.
Yeah, leftover garden seeds, you can always do that. We've done sunflower seeds, put them out there, they grow. And then corn, you can always grow corn if you have a bunch of corn left over and you don't like to carry it over to the next season, or you've carried it over a couple seasons already, you can just plant that out there. They'll eat the stalk and everything. If you have a corn planter, you can actually plant a field with just field corn. And even if it doesn't make an ear, still there's a ton of forage there for those pigs to eat. I don't know of anything that they don't eat at this point. Do you? I don't. Even if we leave a field open and it just weeds in, we'll have lamb's quarter that will grow. It grows great around here. And it's almost like somebody went out there with a drill and planted it. It's so uniformly spaced, and it grows, I swear it grows 6 inches in a night in the summer when it's getting rained on. And it's a great crop for the pigs. They eat every bit of it. So I don't know anything that doesn't work for them. As far as nutritional value, see, there's all kinds of variables here, Scott, because if you grew tomatoes out there for them, they would just go and eat the tomatoes when it's green. It would never make it. You grow turnips out there for them, especially daikons, they'll dig down to get the tip. And let's say that the tip of that radish is down a foot. You want that. You want them turning that soil from down deep up onto the top and vice versa, because like my grow area, I put a set of shanks on the back of the tractor the other day when I was plowing it, because it had some pretty deep holes in it. And these shanks will go down a foot, if you have the power to pull it, you know. And my little tractor's 45 horse, so I could sink them down a foot, but normally I have to pull them back out because the tractor just won't pull that. My soil was so fluffy out there, and it was so deep, the topsoil was so deep, I sunk those shanks down as far as they would go. I mean, they were almost out of sight, and the tractor was pulling it. So later I went and I pulled a hole, and I wanted to look at the bottom of that hole and see what the soil looked like. And it looked as good at the bottom as it did on the top. So I'm creating a very deep topsoil out there with the pigs doing what they do. You got to work with them instead of working against them. So to work, you know, I cruise some of these pages on Facebook that for different types of pigs, sometimes Mangalitsa pigs, and I see where people are frustrated with their pigs because they think that they're going to graze like cattle or sheep. They don't. They dig. That's what they do. They're made to dig. They say that every muscle in that pig's body is connected to its nose. So you want them to dig. And so how does digging benefit you? Well, if you have a grow area that's just for pigs, if you access the video that I made yesterday about the grow area, it's nice and smooth, and the soil looks beautiful, and that's because they dig it so much. And then it's very easy for me to go in and just drive a loop with a harrow on the back. A harrow being something that will just smooth it out, and fill in the holes and stuff. It's really quick. I don't have to do it because the crops will grow in there on top of bumps and holes and stuff. You'll still get a good growth. But again, my customer is my pigs. I don't have to go in there with let's say a potato digger. I don't have to go in there with a turnip digger or some sort of combine that's going to pick, whatever I'm growing. The pigs will do that, and they'll pick it, and they'll eat it, and then they'll manure it out right there. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. There's something that happens when manure drops out of an animal and hits the ground. There's little beings in the ground that are like, yes, yes, Tony, come over here, look at this. And I don't have to spread manure. I don't have to shovel manure. I don't have to do any of that stuff. I provide them with water, food, a place to live, a little bit of bedding, and they're just happy as they can be. So I hope that helps. The best thing, I don't know if there is a best thing. There's things for different times of the year, and then there's, you have to go with the seasons. You would plant whatever's going to work. One of these days, you ever plant zucchini? One of these days, I'm going to plant zucchini for them. I'm going to plant a whole field of zucchini. I just want to see that. I just want to see a whole field of zucchini.
Karen found a free source of grain from a microbrewery. I'd like to feed it to pigs and chickens. What are your thoughts?
Outstanding. Outstanding. I have never done that, but I have friends that have. And what you need to think about is the brewery's taken something out of that. Obviously, they needed something out of it, and then they're giving you what they don't want. So the nutrient might not be there complete. It might not be a complete nutrient for those animals, but it'll be close. And what I would do is I would give them also like a third cutting hay or second cutting hay if you couldn't get a third cutting. Third cutting is good because it's, for pigs, they like that stockiness and they like the high protein. It's good for them. And with chickens, they'll take the leaf out of there. If you can't get that for your chickens, give them something green. You can usually get alfalfa meal. It's pretty cheap. You don't have to give them a whole lot. Or you could just give them a commercial ration and then augment that with the grain from the brewery and see what they like better. You know, if they start staggering around and breaking their own eggs, maybe it won't work. I don't know. No, there won't be any alcohol in it. But yeah, for sure, take all you can get. And in the wintertime, you can dump it out there. They'll eat what they want because a lot of times you get it in a slurry. You give them what they want. I mean, just dump it out there, and then it freezes, and then they'll go over and they'll chip away at it when it's frozen. They seem to like to do that. That's what I've been told. I have not done it though. Not that I wouldn't. I just have a better source of carbohydrates for my pigs. And then I feed my pigs junk bread and hay. And then in the summertime, we run a butcher shop here, so we butcher lots and lots of chickens every week. And they get the heads and the feet and the guts. And it sounds a little gross, but it's legit. When you see what's in like hog chow, it makes heads and feet look like a delicacy. So it's okay. And they love it.
We're actually going to start butchering here in the next week and a half.
Yeah, we're going to start butchering here pretty quick.
All right.
Next question.
DJ wanted to know what's the most important vitamin our body needs.
DJ. I don't think there's. I don't know, DJ. I think. No, I don't know. Maybe. Do you know? Do you know?
No,
We don't
they
know.
all are lock and key and work together, and without any one vitamin or with an overabundance of a certain vitamin, it throws everything off. So I would have a hard time saying what is the most important.
Yeah.
Right. You need them all.
I don't know.
And the best way to get them is in natural whole food sources, because then you get the balanced complement that keeps it bioavailable and most usable for your body. So
Okay. And we're all about talking about how to get there. If our soils are up to speed, if they're nutrient dense, then our plants will be nutrient dense. We feed those plants to our animals, they'll be nutrient dense, and then we eat them and we'll be nutrient dense, which we need to be. It's just said that my phone is down to 20%.
okay.
Okay. Next question, please.
All right. Have you ever raised geese? Any particular breed? Are they worth having on a homestead?
No, we've never raised geese. The only thing that I know about geese is we butcher probably 10 of them per season for people that do. And I do not know anything about them. When they're here, before they're butchered, they're loud. But I'm told they're kind of like a watchdog. You know, if somebody comes in your yard, you know, they'll speak up. But no, I don't know much about geese, so I can't really help you with that. I don't even know the breeds of geese. I'm sorry.
Can you guys see Mark okay?
Can you guys see me okay?
Aaron says yes.
Aaron
So.
says yes. Who was asking?
Oh, and Mike says yeah. So Lorna had troubles keeping you.
Okay.
So
I
just
can
making
see
sure.
it's a little jumpy,
Yeah.
but
Just wanted to make sure that nothing happened when you plugged yourself in there.
okay.
All right, so geese, and then DJ wanted to know again, how do you stop ants and other bugs from eating your vegetables without killing them with sprays?
That's a loaded question. That's a loaded question. If you have ants or other pests in your garden, the garden is putting out a signal that, hey, we're dying over here. And then the ants and the bugs are like, oh, we got some dead stuff going to be dead over there. Let's get over there so we can eat that. If your soil is nutrient dense, if it's balanced, you're going to cut way, way down on a lot of the bugs that you would have. I can't say that you'll eliminate them because the bugs serve a purpose. They're there for a reason. They're there to take care of that plant once it grows. See, the plant grows, creates fruit, and the fruit is there for the seeds, and the whole process happens so it will happen again, right? And somewhere in there, it seems like it was created for people to eat, or somebody to eat, and we're the ones that step in and eat it. But let's say in the natural world, if you have a tree out in the forest that dies, what happens next? All the fungi starts to grow mushrooms all over it, and it actually consumes that tree. So the same sort of thing happens when you have, you've just grown some nice potatoes, and all of a sudden something goes wrong. Something goes wrong. The plant is saying, well, I'm not getting enough of this. I need potassium. If I don't get it, I'm not going to make it. And the bugs say, hey, over here, we're going to have a dead plant soon. And they'll get over there and they'll lay their babies, lay their eggs and stuff. And then that dead plant will be what they are planning on eating. And so that's why they pick your garden to do this in. If your garden had nutritionally balanced soils, that is drastically reduced. And you ever notice, like, when you get potato bugs, there's always a couple of plants that really have them bad, and they seem to be the smallest ones. Check that out. Your healthiest plants don't seem to have it quite so bad. So in my garden, years and years ago, this is a long time ago, we had a pig that died, and I thought, I'm going to make a compost pile right in this garden. That area of the garden, it was a big pig, it was probably 500 or 600 pounds, is still kind of greasy after all this time. And anything that is in that area seems to really have a hard time getting going. It's too much. And I've noticed a couple of times that the potatoes in that area seem to have potato bugs on them. So the garden may have areas that are really well balanced and areas that are not so well balanced. So you don't want to be spraying stuff on your plants that you're going to eat that's going to kill bugs, because there's bugs in you that you don't want to kill. So pesticides are generally not a good idea. But sometimes if that's the only alternative you have, I think that you have to do what you have to do. I'm not going to sit here and say that I've never used a pesticide on produce. Actually did last year. I had this beautiful patch of squash going, and I was really getting a thrill out of watching this grow, and then all of a sudden these bugs came in and they started to eat, and I started a war on them, and I finally said, well, I may not be able to eat this stuff, but you're not going to either. And I did. I got some 7 and I sprayed them and wiped them out, and then the things came back really well, and all those squash wound up going to the pigs anyway.
And actually last year, the squash bugs are the only thing that we had to do that. I had other bugs on the tomatoes and on my oregano, and I used a mixture of essential oils and Dawn dish soap. And there was one other thing in there that I'm not remembering, and it worked really, really good. The only thing that it didn't touch was the squash bugs. And I've had that other years too, where I don't know what gets squash bugs other than the chemicals. They're persistent. But I put it on my list to do a blog post with the recipe that I used. The essential oil ingredients are a little rough because I kind of go by the mood of the day and what I think they need the most. But it gives you a general idea, and like I said, it worked good on everything but squash bugs, so it's worth a try.
And if you want to know how to get your soils balanced, you can send a soil sample into a place called Logan Labs. I'm not affiliated with them. It's just that they do a comprehensive soil analysis, and it's more than just the NPK. There's a lot of trace minerals that you need in your soil, and they're all around. You can get them. I mean, rock dust and stuff like that. It's all around if you really want to do it. But a healthy soil will grow healthy plants, for sure. Okay, is there another question?
Yeah. Okay. And I forgot to write down who this is. This is Aaron.
Aaron.
Any insight on Silvopasture? Sounds like he's wanting to use it. It was forest or something, I think is what he had, for cows. He also plans to run pigs through the area.
On Silvo?
That was what he asked. Yep.
Silvopasture.
Right. That's, I just forgot his name. The big pastured guy.
Aaron Barn Geek?
No. That's not who's asking. It's a guy named Aaron. But, who's the big Silvopasture guy? Does all the grazing.
I don't know.
Has a big organization named after him.
Oh, Savory?
Yeah.
Alan Savory?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what Silvopasture is, so I couldn't really speak to that. But I got a picture taken with Alan Savory one time.
Okay. So maybe Aaron could ask again. Little.
Yeah, I don't know. If it Silvopasture, I don't know what that is.
Not pulling it up.
Do you know
Alrighty.
where it is? Do you know
I'm.
what it is? Sorry, Aaron.
All right. Lone Star wanted
Lone
to
Star.
know what percentage do pigs defecate compared to the pounds they've been fed?
It sounds like a trick question. Like, how would I know? Can't help you there. What? I don't know. Don't know.
Yeah, we've heard it for cows. I don't think I've ever even heard it for pigs.
Yeah, I'm sure it's out there, but it's never been a concern to me because I'm not selling their manure and I'm not even moving their manure. I never have a concentration of pig manure. It's always deposited out in their fields, plop, plop here, plop, plop there. So when you go out there, you don't smell anything, you don't, there's not a problem. But I don't know. Maybe you're not kidding me. By the way, thanks for the super chat last week. Lone Star shot us $20. I appreciate it. Appreciate it. I really do. Thank you.
Oh, it's pasture that's forest now, he's saying. The Silvopasture.
Oh. Well,
Oh, he had asked a question. I knew that was ringing a bell about grazing cattle in forests before.
Oh. Well, if you're going to graze in a forest, you know, there's so many different varieties of forest. I can't really say, oh, yes, good idea. But I think in most forests, at least here, I'm in Michigan, we get a lot of hardwoods. And then we have coniferous. Cattle will selectively eat things out of the forest, without a doubt. And when they find something they like, especially buds on trees, they'll go after them. So there's definitely food out there for them. And if you manage that forest properly by opening it up, and there's a lot of conversation that could be had there. Do you want to take the big trees down, or do you want to take the little trees down? It depends what you're interested in doing. You say that you want to pasture some hogs out there. Well, if it were me, and you had any kind of nut activity going on out there, like acorns, anything like that, they're going to come from the bigger trees. I would leave the bigger trees. I'd protect the bigger trees, and I'd take out the lower canopy anything that's that big or smaller, not gonna amount to anything anyway if the canopy is over it. And, I would manage the forest that way. A lot of times forests are selectively cut, but it's done for the purpose of milling the wood into something. And so they're not gonna want to take the small ones, they're gonna wanna take the big ones, the saw logs. And then they leave the small ones, and those ones have a jump to someday be big ones. And that makes a lot of sense. But if you're going, let's say you have a woodlot on your farm and you want to maintain that woodlot, here's what I would do. I would take out anything that's under the canopy, I'd take it out, and then I would sort it for firewood, mushroom logs, and then chips. And then the big trees could propagate and utilize the dead roots of the trees that you've cut down. They'll use those nutrients, and then they won't be fighting for nutrient from those smaller trees, so they'll take right off. And then selectively take those down occasionally, and take them to somebody that does sawing and get some nice lumber out of it. But if you open it up, then you're able to get in there and actually seed it. So there's a lot of things that will grow in a woodlot with limited sunlight, and you can make a lot of beef out of that and a lot of pork out of it. Now, if you're going to make pork in there, if let's say you plant bird's foot trefoil, which grows really good in forest, the pigs will just dig it right up. They'll eat it. Not a bad thing, but it won't come back next year for your cattle. So I think you have to be a little bit, you got to think it through. Like, do you want to plant it every year or what? I could see pastures, I've seen pastures that they have in Spain where they have massive, massive trees that are oaks. They take very good care of them because those oak trees drop a tremendous amount of acorns, and then they'll turn the pigs in there, and those pigs will get fat on acorns, and that's where they get Iberico ham from. So it definitely makes sense. I mean, you don't get acorns anyplace else, and a big tree will drop tons of acorns, literally tons. It's something to research, kind of neat. So that's what I think I know. If you want to hone in on the question, make it a little bit more specific, I would love to tell you more, but I don't know what you really need to know.
Lone Star wondered is biochar easy to spot that has been added to the pig diet? Do you
Yeah.
see it out the other end?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. When you feed biochar, their turds come out dark brown. They're pretty dark brown anyway. But when you feed biochar, it comes out real dark brown. And if you're gonna get into feeding biochar to your pigs on pasture, I would assume that you know that you're doing it for a reason. You know, it's gonna be good for their health, but it's also really good for the health of the soil, because the biochar will protect the bacteria that's in the pig's gut. And when that turd comes out onto the ground, it will be protected. You want to protect that bacteria so it can become part of the soil, be part of that biology. And that's what you want. It's good bacteria. If you ever come here, there's really no place on the farm where you're going to get a really bad smell of manure, unless the commercial farms are spreading their nasty stuff in tankers. You will never smell anything here unless maybe you step on a dog turd in the yard. And even when we had a lot of pigs here, it didn't stink, because we don't feed hog chow, and their turds are coming out. They're not concentrated in a barn or any place like that. They're always out. As soon as they hit the ground, you know, the ground is waiting for them. and they're gone very quickly. So it's not just that they fall apart. The bacteria in the soil, uh, you know, they're buddies. They meet up and they have something to eat together. You know, and that's how that works.
What you were just talking about, Brittany asked, what's a good corn and soybean alternative feed for Mangalitsa pigs?
Yeah. With Mangalitsa, what we've found is generally feed corn in the United States is genetically modified, GMO. If you're buying the cheap stuff, it's GMO, for sure. The problem with that is not that it's genetically modified, it's why is it genetically modified? It's genetically modified so that they can spray glyphosate right on it and it won't kill it, but it'll kill everything around it. It's a defoliant. Here, where the problem comes in is that when that defoliant becomes part of the corn and then your Mangalitsas eat that, it kills off a lot of the plant life in their gut. And it makes it so they have a hard time taking up nutrient that they rely on this plant life in their gut to break down. They don't do it by themselves. There's like 3 or 4 pounds of bacteria in everybody's gut that does the work for them. So that's the problem with glyphosate laden products. So an alternative to that, try to find a small grain that is open pollinated or that they haven't used, that is not genetically modified. Try to find one. You can find barley. You can't find wheat anymore. Every bit of wheat that we are able to access anyway is been dried in the field with glyphosate. They kill it in the field and then it just sits there and blows in the wind and it dries out, and then they harvest it when it's dry. So it's got glyphosate on it. You notice now everybody and their brother is gluten intolerant. Well, they're not gluten intolerant, they're glyphosate intolerant is what it is. And soy, I don't think there's any soy out there that's open pollinated anymore. That's what I've been told. So, what are you going to do? Well, in our case, we get this bread product that's made with organic flour. That doesn't mean it's not got glyphosate in it, but my pigs seem to do fine on it, and nobody seems to have a reaction to it as far as a glyphosate reaction. So I use that, and then my hay is definitely not genetically modified. So they do well on that. They do well on that. Think of things that are not genetically modified. You can find them. Sometimes beets. Some potatoes, not a lot of potatoes. Most potatoes now are GMO. And then, you know, like what we're doing was we grow these fields with, we don't use any glyphosate. So anything that I grow for the pigs it's natural. So that would be an alternative for you if you could start growing your own feeds. I know not everybody can do that. I don't know, what do you think?
I think you can feed them just about anything,
Yeah.
and they'll convert it into pork. It's one of the beauties of the
Mang-
Mangalitsa and
yeah.
what makes them valuable on a homestead.
Yeah, Mangalitsa is a great homestead pig. It was kind of billed for a while there as like a rich man's pig, you know, only royal people could have them. But the reason that they've hung around so long is that the average guy can grow a really decent pig without, they don't need hog chow, they don't need a whole lot of TLC. They really don't. They do well. My pigs eat straw, you know. I drop a bale of straw and they'll eat a whole lot of it. And they look like they do okay on it. I mean, so long as their coats are shiny and their noses are wet and they're gaining weight, they're good. They're good. I hope that helps you.
Lone Star wanted to know if it gets hot enough in summer that our pigs need a wallow.
Where's Lone Star again? Do you
I
remember?
don't remember. Lone Star, where you at?
Well, I'm up here in northern Michigan, and it gets pretty cold. It gets pretty cold in the wintertime, like real cold, and then in the summertime we'll have about 2 weeks where it'd be 85 to 90 during the day. And I make a wallow for them just so they can get in, get mudded up. A wallow does more for them than just cool them off. It helps with parasite control. They are susceptible to lice, and if they get covered with mud, it seems to keep the lice in check so we don't have to use anything on them. The lice just seem to come a certain time of the year, and you'll see them doing a lot of itching, and that's time to fire up the wallow, and they get in it covered with mud, and I think the lice drowned. So it doesn't hurt, it just costs you a little bit of water, and they get pretty, they seem to enjoy it, so I like to give them as much enjoyment as they give me. I just had bacon for dinner, so least I can do is run them a little water for mud. Yeah.
All right. This was from earlier this week. Oh, actually, here's one from Mike. We'll take care of the people that are here. In my area, they said carinata grows good. Will pigs eat it?
I've never heard of that, Mike. And so here's your chance to be a hero. Grow some, and then input, put pictures of it, and then input to the tribe for growers down in your area that this stuff grows real good and the pigs eat it, because I don't even know what it is. Okay.
Ah.
Mike's going to be a hero.
Yep. This is a garden question that we had earlier this week. What are your thoughts on using colored mulch for garden and containers? Looked at bags today and it said colorant, so I wasn't sure if that was okay to use as a top layer in my beds.
Well, me, personally, I would turn my nose up that instantly because I like the way things are, Like, I don't like girls coloring their hair. I like it the way it is. So if I see some weird color out there that doesn't look right, I would turn my nose, but that's me. If you are into it, I would want to know what they color it with and find out if it's going to leach into what you're going to eat. But I mean, usually that's done for decorative purposes. You put it around shrubs and stuff, outside the casino. So I don't see where that has a place on my homestead. But that's me. Yeah, that's me. I won't say no. I'd say I wouldn't do it. But maybe you color your hair too. And so it's okay. I saw a girl with pink hair the other day. I mean, totally pink. And she seemed to think it was pretty good. And she was with a guy, and he must have thought it was good. So I'm not into that. Okay?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a hater.
All right. And this is a little bit longer question again.
Okay.
Did you just dive into homesteading and farming without much preparation, or if you did prepare, what exactly did you do to prepare?
No, I never thought that I was going to be here. This is not where I thought things were going to go. I was active duty Air Force, and we moved away from the base, just because we wanted to be away from the base, because we'd been near the base, and we wanted to be away from the base, and we wound up getting a small piece of property that had been a farm, but there was only just the farmhouse there and a little bit of land. And then I got some chickens, and we had little kids, and they thought the chickens were cool. Then we got a goat, then we got some pigs, then I got some cattle, and that's where it started. It was just for fun. It was just a hobby. Then we had a garden, but what we realized was that this hobby that we were doing was really drastically cutting down on the money that we spent at the store. And when we started eating the food that we were creating, we started to realize that it was making changes in our beings. We weren't eating the junk that we had previously been eating, macaroni and cheese and all that stuff. So we made a conscious choice when I retired from the Air Force that we wanted to live a farm life, and we came here and just got into the fray, and it was commercial farming, and I had to find a place to fit in, and it was pretty hard to do around here, so we kind of read, like Joel Salatin was a big influence on us, and so we just built and built and built, and at one time we had 30 chicken tractors running, and we had a pretty good market here around us. It was pretty good. Then we locked horns with the Department of Agriculture, and that kind of ruined everything. And they have a big influence on your market. And so, but we didn't want to leave the farm lifestyle, so we decided to kind of go back to where we started when I still had a job and we had all these processes that were feeding us, but now we have a whole lot more skill and we have the ability to learn even more than we did before, so we can totally feed ourselves. And now we have a butcher shop and we can butcher all of our own animals. And now we butcher a little bit for people, custom butchering. And we have friends that we do some business with, but we don't refer to ourselves as commercial farmers anymore. We're homesteaders, because we don't sell into any restaurants or any retail stores or anything like that, because you got to have the blessing of the Department of Agriculture, and I probably will never have the Department of Agriculture's blessing, because in my opinion they're the Department of Anti-Agriculture. I think what we do is actually agriculture. I think what the factory farms do, I think, is a travesty. It's a slap in the face of humanity to me, but they seem to think that's a good thing to do. But anyway, that's how we got into this, and now we start to see that we can go even further into this. There's way more things to learn, and now we're a little bit more into the teaching and consulting with people on how to do their own thing. And I would imagine that you're here because there's some sort of problem. You're dissatisfied with the food that you're getting, or you're dissatisfied with the fact that you're not connected to your food, and so you're reacting to that. So you want to get some education, and then once you grow that first tomato, there's your solution right there. So problem, reaction, solution. It's a good thing. It can be a good thing, and you can prevail. There is a solution, and the solution really is, if we step back in time, everybody farmed, and then they had a job to create the dollars that they needed. If you're creating all your own food, you need less dollars, so then you don't have to live in places where you make massive paychecks because if you haven't noticed, if you live in those places, the rents are higher and the food at the store is higher. And not just a little higher, it's a lot higher. So, hey, Lone Star, thank you. Did a super chat, sent us $20. Awesome. Everybody should watch what Lone Star does. He's got a good thing going there. But that's how we got into it and why we got into it. And I kind of feel like we've only scratched the surface. And this deal of discussing it on Wednesday nights, for some reason, I really like it. I feel like I'm really getting something done. I don't think there's a call-in show that the Department of Ag puts on that helps you do things, because they don't know how to do this. They know how to do factory farm, and that's it.
Couple more questions.
Couple more questions, okay.
Brittany, they've been watching your videos and learning about the pigs a lot.
Okay.
They have 15.5 acres, have been moving the pigs about every 3 days or so, and behind them are throwing down cover crops. They're using turnips, clover, rutabaga, plan to try wheat, buckwheat, rye, anything else I should try and plant behind the pigs.
If I was you, Brittany, I think you got the bug here. You've figured it out that the damage that the pigs are going to do is actually can be a good thing for you if you control where they do this damage. Then you don't need a tractor. You can go behind them and you can seed, and you can get some of those seeds in by dragging something, or there's a lot of different ways you can do it. But if you want to get that soil broken up, you want them to go down deep, I would limit them to much smaller areas and leave them there until they've gotten everything off of it. And then you move them to the next one. 15 acres is a chunk of property. It's a big chunk of property. And what you don't want to do is you don't want to leave them on a spot until they start screaming at you like, move us, or bring us some Cheetos. You want to leave them there until they've eaten everything, because there's nothing that grows out there. Well, I shouldn't say that. Depends where you are. Like, there are some cactuses. What are those things that grow? I don't know what you call them, but they're prickly, and they won't eat those. But it's their mouths are soft. They can't very well eat those things. But if you grow something that has a long root on it, a long tap root on it, like a daikon radish, they'll get way down deep on that, and they'll loosen the soil up for you. 15 acres is big. You could have a grow area, join a whiteboard presentation on it today, just an overview. My grow area is 300 long, 100 wide. You can grow a lot of stuff on there, and then the pigs aren't all over your property. And I did 40 pigs on it last year. That's a lot. And if you just have a few, like you're saying, you can grow a lot of forage for them. We did an experiment where we took a square foot and we dug everything out of there that a pig could eat. So every root, every grass, maybe there was a big fat daikon radish there, or a turnip or whatever. We dug that out and we did it on several different plantings. And then we did the math on it, and we determined that the number we're going to use is 5 pounds per square foot. So that'd be plus or minus probably 4, because sometimes you get a daikon radish that's this long and it's 8 pounds itself. So, but we figure about 5 pounds per square foot. So 100 by 100 times 5, that's a lot of forage for your pigs. And every bit of forage that grows off your property is something that you're not buying, and you're still going to get this tremendous pork off of it. I mean, the reason why pork at the stores is so raunchy is because all they eat is corn, soy, and hog concentrate, which is just ground up poodles or not poodles necessarily, but raw protein is everything from poodles to pigs. They still feed them back to pigs. That's what raw protein is. So that's why they stink so bad. And then the meat is just kind of bland and the other white meat. It's just raunchy. But your pigs out on pasture, that meat will be nice and red, and the fat will be nutrient dense, and you'll actually want to eat the fat, which, there's a lot of fat on your body that needs to be, well, not you specifically, but all of us. I don't know Brittany, by the way. I'm not calling you fat. I'm saying that there's fat on our bodies that needs to be replaced with other fats. And the fat in the human body is an animal fat. Can't be replaced effectively with vegetable fats. It usually goes, when you eat vegetable fats, that usually goes into what's called storage on the human body. It's usually around like your middle, I'm not talking about you, Brittany. I don't know Brittany. Not calling Brittany fat.
Last question from
Last
Lone
question.
Star.
Lone Star.
This was his great question. Do you castrate your meat pigs, and what age? And are you going to run for sheriff again?
All right. I do. And there's a great amount of controversy surrounding that question on the internet. And I don't like to be dogmatic about anything. I mean, I like to be dogmatic about things, but I know that it's not good to be dogmatic about things. It doesn't come across to some people very well. But I think I have the answer to this. We've been raising pigs for, it's coming up on 20 years now, and we started butchering pigs about the same time we started raising them. Not because we wanted to, but because we had to. There was a fire at the, anyway. So we've been inside and out of pigs a lot. And we've eaten a lot of pig meat, we've eaten a lot of beef, we've eaten a lot of chicken, we've butchered all of them. And it would be probably about 5 times now that I've butchered a boar pig. And that would be a pig that's mature with testicles installed, right? So he's intact, is what we're saying. And you can find people on the internet that will say, oh, so long as they're not active, sexually active, there will be no boar taint. Or as long as they're separated from other females, or from females, there will be no boar taint. Or if you feed them this, or the moon is in this phase, or there's all kinds of different formulas. I guess I haven't tried them all out, but every time we've butchered a pig, a boar pig, it smells like the men's room on a hot day down at the subway, right? It smells like urine on a campfire, and I think everybody knows what that smells like. So I just don't know how people say that you can do that, you can eat them. But what we've found is, we stayed at somebody's guest house one time, and they said, oh, there's pork in the freezer, it's have all you want. There's some good bacon there from that boar that we had, that they got from us. And I said, you butchered your boar? Oh, yeah. They said, how was the meat? Oh, fantastic, fantastic. I said, really? Okay, so the next morning I'm looking forward to this great meat and eggs. And the smell comes up the stairs. And I knew. Now, they didn't detect the smell, but I did. So I think once you detect the smell, I think it's there. And when you're butchering them, it's there. When you're butchering a boar, you smell it. I butcher boars all the time now, but when we have a boar that makes it to a certain age and he's not useful to us anymore and he's getting way too big or he's getting mean or something like that, we'll knock them down and we'll butcher them and we'll bag that meat up. That all goes in the freezer because I have working dogs here that need to be fed and they don't mind that smell. They probably like that smell. And but they stink. So I would say if it's going to be a meat pig, castrate them and do it at like 2 weeks. Or if you wait a little longer, they're just going to be that much stronger.
Then you need a stout young man to sit on him for
Yeah,
you.
yeah. We've actually butchered pigs around here that, like, let's somebody says they want to buy a boar from us, but then they never show up to pick it up, and then we say, well, we don't need another boar, but he's not going to be any good to us if he's not castrated. You know, it can be a rodeo to castrate him, and I don't know. And am I going to run for sheriff again? Anything's possible, but I don't. We'll see. We'll see how things look in 2020. We have a new sheriff here that was actually appointed by our last sheriff that beat me, and he decided that he was going to punch out on his commitment to the people of the county. So he retired after 2 years, and he appointed his buddy, who was the undersheriff. So I think if I ran against him, I could beat him, but I don't know if I want that job. And the undersheriff seems to be doing a good job. I don't hear any bad things. I was more doing that to kind of make a point that our Constitution is very, very important. And what we're talking about here is a process that people don't generally do anymore. There's not a whole lot of homesteaders out there anymore. And I'm working with a girl right now whose township has decided that they don't want her to homestead. And she's got a pretty nice operation going. And, you know, the township is just local government. And I believe that the sheriff down there should step in and say, wait a minute, the Fifth Amendment, you know, that pesky Fifth Amendment that says her life, liberty, and property is protected under due process of law, would dictate that there needs to be a law in place that she's violating before the township can stop her from doing anything. And there isn't. There isn't any law that says you can't homestead. So that's why I did that. And I don't know. Some days I feel like there really needs to be somebody that takes a stand. But we'll see. I'm not ruling anything out at this point. You know, I took an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States, and if I need to, I will. So that'll be our last question for the night. Next week when we come together, let me suggest that we have more questions like that about what homesteading means, what it enables you to do as a person here in our society, how you can fit into a community as a homesteader, and how to present yourself too. So let's have some questions on that next week at this time. In the meantime, you can meet us over at Facebook at the Anyone Can Farm Homesteader, Anyone Can Farm Tribe, all right? And also at the Baker's Green Acres page. We'll be posting there, and you know, our products and stuff are for sale there too as well. And I'm planning on some how-to videos that'll be exhaustive on some of the things that we do, like the basic things, you know, like really getting into the nuts and bolts of how we do things. We're planning on that.
Lone Star wants to know if he has any homework for his compost certification. Does he have to post pictures on the tribe?
Well, you could. If you're doing it by hand, post a video. I want to see somebody putting out some effort. Did you use anything to get it going? Like, did you use my potion? Because mine's going good. Mine's going real good. All right, I'm going to sign off for now. It's Mark from Baker's Green Acres. Remember, anyone can farm.